morning, everybody. I am thrilled that you're here today. It's pretty darn awesome to have this beautiful weather. So I'm Rita Hickman, body mind expert, shiatsu massage therapist, and I help women in toxic and narcissistic relationships. So today we are talking about deep emotional detoxing. So, my first narcissist was my dad. So of course I've had, that in my life since I was born. And I'm a healer by wiring, and so I've been on my own personal healing journey ever since the beginning. And the last 4 or 5 years, I've spent some deep time in working on the very oldest wounds, not just the ones that are day-to-day surface, but the very oldest wounds. And if you've done any healing work in your life, you've realized that those things are the hardest to trigger. They're the best protected. They're the parts of us that we learned a long time ago just to accept as a truth, as a reality that doesn't necessarily, that's still based on our child mind, on our beliefs of when we were a kid. Because when we develop a belief, it becomes hardwired in. And so some of our deepest beliefs about our value, who we are, what matters to us, how the world works, we develop when we're young. So, many times by the time we get to be an adult, these are the issues, these deep, deep core beliefs that we have a hard time tapping into. Now, many people, especially many women, they've been through therapy, they've been in the different, they've gotten different energy work and different healing work and different things along those lines. And they know very well, woman after woman after woman after woman that I've worked with know very, very well what they believe. What they're, I have daddy issues, I have mommy issues, I have, I had, this trauma, I saw these things happen. And we know intellectually what our big fears are. We've probably been studying them most of our lives. But in order to move forward, we actually have to tap into those emotions. We have to tap into, on a physical level, the thoughts and ideas that we know we still struggle with, maybe about self-love or respect or personal value, or that we may be left behind because we're always left behind, or that we don't matter enough to people for them to go out of our way for us. Things like that, stuff that they're very insidious. These beliefs are very much under the radar, and they direct a lot of what we do. They make a lot of our decisions for us. This belief that people can't be trusted, or that you just need to be nice no matter what. Things like that. So if you're ready to access some of those deeper emotions, if you're ready to start doing healing work and really get rid of the stress that's on your body, because when we suppress an emotion, about that we're not good enough, that we're not valuable enough, what happens is it becomes stuck in our body. And that emotion, the chemicals of emotion, the nervous system firings from that emotion, all of those end up trapped in the body until we're able to move them out. Cry them out or pee them out or sweat them out, whatever it may be, they're still going to be there. And if they're stuck in our body, and trust me, we all have hundreds, if not thousands of them over a lifetime by now, if they're stuck in the body, they create additional stress on yourself. Every time that you do a deep detox, the benefit of this is that you feel less stressed. You feel less physical stress on your body because you have finally been able to take those chemicals from the emotion that you had and move it through like you should have maybe when you were 4 or 8 or 10 or 20 or 30. When things happen to you and they got suppressed, they build up, and it makes it physically more difficult for you to be tolerant and patient and to have that inner peace. So a lifetime of suppressing our emotions does turn us into somebody who feels even more anxious than before, because then it's a felt sense. We now feel the toxic environment that we've created inside of ourselves, and it shows up in chronic illness, it shows up in health disorders, dizziness, migraines, tumors, low immune system, rheumatoid arthritis, all of these happen, or at least magnified, when we've got this toxic load of deep emotions that have been buried, we haven't been able to touch. So throughout my lifetime, I've, polished the mirror, as Rumi says, and you keep working on things. And through my lifetime, I've worked backwards until at this stage, now I'm working on the very deepest things, the things that, only the stuff that's left. It's kind of nice to be in this position. Only the stuff that's left, the stuff that, that's beyond the everyday, that overall will put me into an even more peaceful and even more gentle and even more centered sort of inner environment, and then outer environment with how I relate to people and the energy coming off of me. Because when you're loaded down with those suppressed emotions, and our bodies send out wavelengths around us, from our cells, from our brain, from our heart, we're always sending out wavelengths, like a radio station. When we've got all of those emotions stuck in us, that's sent out. When we've got a toxic inner world, no matter how hard we try to hide it or the mask that we put on, we're still sending out a signal. And that still attracts bullies. It still attracts people who want to use us. It still attracts people who, feel sorry for us, the whole pity thing. And so as long as we keep these suppressed emotions, these deep ones about our value and what we're worth and whether we deserve something or not, or whether we're lovable, those deepest ones, which I'm sure you've totally, over-therapized, gone to therapy and totally intellectually figured out what your problem was. But you couldn't access it. You couldn't actually take that emotional load, touch it, and detox it from your body. So I've been playing a lot with brainwave meditations lately. I've been playing with all sorts of great ones because in the last 10, 15 years, there's been really a wonderful new research on it when they brought Tibetan monks over and studied their brain. And they put sensors on their brain and they put sensors on their heart. And they said, what's going on when you go into meditation? And they found all of these other brainwave states that integrated things, that touch different parts of your body. So lately, I've been having a ball playing with brainwave states, different frequencies, listening to them while I sleep. When I go to sleep, when I wake up in the morning to assist my meditation. You can find all these sorts of things on YouTube, or you can get music from iTunes. Gamma, hyper gamma, and lambda are the ones that I use the most. But when you start looking into brainwave entrainment, you find all sorts of options, opening up your third eye, full body healing. You get to play with all of these things and see how it helps you access different levels of consciousness. So how can we use this to do deeper emotionally detox? Well, what I've been finding is that when I'm in that meditative state, this is what my experiments have been giving me. When I'm in that meditative state, when I've been listening to a gamma meditation, and I'm hanging out, and I say to myself, I let go of all beliefs or ideas or emotions or memories that get in the way of me feeling peaceful, get in the way of me feeling successful and moving forward in life, that gets me unstuck. And I do that. And the first few times I did that, I said, wow, that feels really good. But then I started to notice a weird phenomenon. And the phenomenon was, usually then within an hour or a couple hours or the next day, I would have that emotional detox. So when I was in the meditation and I was saying, I let go of all emotions, I let go of all, fears, anxieties, memories, whatever I may say, it gives my body an instruction. And then within a certain amount of time, that will be triggered. That will come up. Those feelings will come up for me. I'm able to access them and I'm able to cry them out. So I had a good cry in the shower this morning, because I was working on pieces having to do with value, having to do with, there's some changes going on around me, and those old fears of I'm going to be left behind, that I don't matter enough for people to, go out of their way, things like that, stuff that's old, that you're like, I totally have got that. I've totally figured this out, but it's still underneath there, kind of controlling us. So when you put this in the meditation, when you ask for these things, you'll get an immediate response, but really what you're doing is you're sending a message to your body that you really want to clear these emotions. You really want to clear these old fears and these old anxieties. And you'll notice that something then triggers you and you're able to access those deeper emotions finally. The sadness, the grief, the fear, the anxiety, the conflict, the emotions which we never allowed ourselves to express because it wasn't safe to express them. This tells us, it's like a message to our body and a message to our body mind that says, I am ready. I'm ready to let go of these things. So if you want to play with brainwave entrainment, go to YouTube, look for Lambda, Lambda, brainwave entrainment, look for gamma, hyper gamma. And as I said, you'll start to open up this whole box of different options that you can play with to start working on rewiring your brain and rewiring your nervous system. So that's been my cool phenomenon. When I do that, when I'm in the meditation and I send myself that message, that I'm ready to let go of the things that cause me to feel stressful, that are still hanging around, that allows it. It gives it permission to come to the surface, to come out of those deep, dark depths. It says, it's safe to do this now. I want to work on this. I'm ready to work on this. And then you wait for the opportunity for that belief or that memory or that feeling to be triggered. And then once it's triggered, whether it's triggered by somebody else, whether it's triggered by a thought or a situation, the ideal way is to then give yourself some space to let yourself cry it out or sweat it out or be present with it. It's like a wave. You sit there present with the emotion and you either allow the wave to come and allow the wave to go, or you just sort of ride the wave. You kind of stay above it and watch it a little bit. You can do either one. But the whole purpose is to allow you to finally feel those things that you were taught you weren't allowed to feel when you were small or even when you were bigger. Our brains keep growing until we're 28. So these traumas, these experiences, once suppressed and they get very well guarded, and then they're harder to access. This lets you access it. So if you're ready to do some deeper detox, as I said, this is kind of what it looks like. You do a meditation, you talk to yourself and you say, you know what, I'm ready to let go of these things. I don't know what they are, but I'm ready to let go of them. And then you stay open and present for when an emotion comes. And when it does come, you don't react. You don't take it out on other people. You don't distract. You don't do something else. You see it as the beautiful opportunity that it is to finally clear yourself of some of these deeper things which have, under the surface, been controlling all of your decisions and all of your reactions, your sense of self-worth, your sense of value, your sense that people aren't going to be there for you, your sense that you're always going to lose out, things will never work out your way. Those senses, those beliefs which you created to protect yourself when you were small because you didn't know any better, because your brain couldn't figure out any other interpretation to keep you safe, it's time to release those. And so when it comes up, when you feel it, give yourself that space if you can. Go take a shower. Lay down for a while where it's private. Go to a park, sit outside, and let yourself be with the emotion that's probably been making you sick or contributing to making you sick mentally, emotionally, or physically for a very long time. This is the physical detox. We can know all over the place what our problems are, and most of us do. Oh yeah, my dad was blah, blah, blah. My mom was blah, blah, blah. But when you don't feel it, when you're still disconnected from it, when you still disassociate from it because of pain or just because it's habit now, that you just protect yourself from it. Give yourself permission. Do the brainwave meditation. When you're in those meditations, tell yourself, I'm letting go of these things. And then watch and wait for the opportunity because you will let it go. And what will happen on the other side is you will have a sense of peace because you will have less of a toxic load on your system. It's the internal stress, it's the toxic load, it's the buildup of the toxic load of suppressed emotions, it's the buildup of environmental toxins, it's the nervous system protecting and reacting. That's what keeps us feeling reactionary. That's what keeps us feeling victimized. That's what keeps us stuck in the patterns that we're in because of how we feel. It's very hard to be nice when you don't feel good. So when you detox these things, you will feel better. You will physically, mentally, and emotionally feel better because you have now, breathed fresh life. You've moved fresh, blood and water and nourishment and nervous system signals into these areas which were well protected, had boundaries around them, were well defended from being felt. This gives you permission and tells your body that you're ready to feel these things. And once you feel them, and let yourself be present with them and ride that wave with compassion and love and support for yourself, when you do that, you will feel better. It's exactly like when you have a big cry and you feel better afterwards. This is the same thing, except now you're not waiting for something to trigger it. You're doing it on your terms. You're saying, you know what, I need to have a good cry. When I remember an episode of, it was Ray Romano's television show. I don't remember what it was called. But the main thing that I remember about it, everything, all about Raymond, I think. And one of the shows was how his wife felt she needed an emotional detox. So she put on a sad movie so that she could emotionally detox. When you do these things to trigger yourself before somebody else or something else triggers you, you become healthier, you become happier. Your body isn't working so hard. You're not spending so much energy trying to protect yourself from how you feel. Instead, you allow yourself to feel what you need to feel. And as I said, those darkest things, those deepest things, the original ones that are so well buried, they're hard to access. You can't just snap your fingers and feel the emotions of when you were abandoned. I mean, you can feel them on a level, but more than likely you're detached. You're like, well, that's what happened and I moved on and this is the way life is and there's nothing I can do about it. But that's not true. Maybe you've changed your mind mentally, but you still have to get those emotions out of your body. And the way to do it is to meditate, give yourself permission to release those emotions, wait for when the emotions come up, give yourself space to allow your body to finally process through them and get rid of them so they're not stuck and wasting energy and making you sick. And you just ride it, and then you notice how good you feel on the other side, okay? So if you want some deep emotional detoxes, I would suggest that you give this a try, because I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm like, ooh, what's left? What's left? What else is underneath there? Because the more peaceful you feel inside of yourself, the more content you feel inside of yourself, the more power you have. People who have power are people who have control over themselves. And they have control over themselves because they're not being sabotaged or hijacked by how they feel. Because they've done that work. They've cleared those emotions. They've cried them out. They've peed them out. They've, gotten angry. They've done what they've needed to do. And so they don't flare up and rear their ugly head and put us into fight or flight. When we do this sort of work, it helps keep us out of fight or flight. And so then when we're in a situation where we need to be on our toes, when we need to navigate and redirect, we've got the resources because we're not using those resources to protect ourselves from feeling something, okay? So cool. Have a great rest of your day. I know I am. And I'll talk to you later, okay?